We're going to be locking the door. You can't get up and leave.
This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by ShireSociety.com.
And he rejects, in particular, that he has to follow the laws. It's a question of accountability. The defendant, what I expect you to hear.
But you'd wanted to, Nemi, to comment on the audience and some of their reactions.
Mr. Miller, that we're going to be locking the door, so I want to make sure everybody that wants to be in here is in here, because I want the jury to pay particular attention to both the counsel and Mr. Miller during their closing arguments. It's out of courtesy to the state and to Mr. Miller that I'm closing the courtroom, which also means if you're in here for the duration. You can't get up and leave, again, out of common courtesy to everybody.
Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
If the jury doesn't decide today, is there a chance they'll be held over until tomorrow for more deliberation?
Correct.
Thank you.
You want us out?
There was no poker face being kept today in court. I don't know whether that resulted in a good or a bad thing for the jury. The one thing we can say...
I don't either, because the same thing happened in Greenfield where people were applauding and laughing, and it was basically a very similar atmosphere down in Greenfield, Massachusetts, where Ademo and Pete Eyre beat wiretapping charges.
Interactions? Government's supposed to be transparent.
You can't do that. No, man. You should take your hands off him.
Come on.
Sir, take your hands off him.
And I would also like to point out that Michael Valentine, the prosecutor, needed to be escorted from the courtroom by sheriffs and bailiffs when he left. Now, if someone
not because anybody was going to attack him.
No, not at all. But
that's what they think.
Well, I think he was that uncomfortable because people were. I mean, he asked the judge to speak to someone in the gallery who apparently he felt was speaking to him while he was trying to do his job, or he felt that he was clearly at some level intimidated.
I think somebody was doing that, though. I think somebody was going essentially, hey, bada, swing behind him while he was trying to give his
or quit
pitch.
Your job, something, right? He may have gotten a couple of comments.
There's going to be no rehabilitation for me. I'm not ever going to think that what I did was wrong. So if you think deterring me from trying to be an activist by locking me up in jail, you can go ahead and think that, but I don't think it's going to work. I don't know. I should let me go home.
Did anything further?
No, thank you.
Listen, I'm not going to ask you to stand because you probably wouldn't, so you can just you can sit or stand to your leisure. I'm not going to accept the state's recommendations.
I was just wondering, what's the takeaway from this? How do you think activism should change?
Well, I think the same thing should happen as has been happening, as liberty-minded people should get together in the same place. We still don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers to really have a sea change in politics, and we don't have the numbers to have a sea change of effectiveness of civil disobedience. Numbers are what really matter, and I think that the takeaway here is that maybe this could have been done better, and maybe somebody else like William Kostrick is willing to try to do this better. But otherwise, people who can back each other up make a difference. He left a note for us, Nemi, that you shared earlier, where he said he really appreciated all the people who came out to support him in this. And that was possible because of the Free State Project, because of people getting together. I think that this shows that the state, it shows the usual lessons are here. And it's important that we keep repeating these lessons because, for people like us, Mark, Nemi, we've seen it enough times. We know that the government bureaucrats do whatever they want to. They've got men with guns. They enforce things arbitrarily. The rules change at any given time based on the whims of the bureaucrats who happen to be in charge at any given moment. We know all this, but there are the people who don't. And the people who don't will come in at any given point in all of these processes, and they're going to see they're going to need to see this too, because it's an eye opener for folks.
The old world is collapsing, and it's going to take its slave driver governments with it. But what will rise up in their place? In New Hampshire, the Shire Society has a plan, a thriving web forum, and a history of action.
He didn't take long to come up with a plan.
You can sign up right now at ShireSociety.com.